So today we'll like to talk to you about your career, if you don't mind, how you became like such an important figure in this area of Chinese painting options. But to begin with, where did you go to study? Were you from Hong Kong or?
I'm from Hong Kong and I studied and grew up here until I was 17. And then I went to study in this crazy school called the United World College, one of them, which is in Italy. And it's a place where it's really changed the course of my life a lot. It's where I made many friends in different countries. It's where I met my husband. And then it's also where it really opened my eyes to world cultures, which is one of the big things about going to Italy and staying there for 2 years at university, college. I wanted to be an archaeologist. And then I wanted to study Egyptology, but I didn't have French and German.
Is Christie's your first job?
No, the most relevant job that I've had was I was an assistant curator at the Maritime Museum for a year.
Here in Hong Kong?
Here in Hong Kong, and that was a really exciting time because the museum was just opening in Stanley. So I was there when we opened it in Stanley to the public.
How did you set your foot in the door of this amazing company?
I actually got to Christie's through an online application.
What?
So I joined Christie's as an associate specialist trainee in 2009. At the time, I was looking for a job, and then I went to Christie's.com, and then it just popped up like an ad, or in the vacancies page. So I tried. Maybe 6 to 8 months later. So it took them that long to process the application. And I remember flying to London and meet some of the fellow sort of contestants at the time.
Oh wow!
And then later on I'm here.
How would you like generally prepare for a sale? Like I mean, for us we only see like the show,
yes,
and then we see people going in, getting a paddle, and chasing out to certain lots. But we actually have no idea how you go about preparing for a sale.
From a more simplistic point of view, I think for every 6 months we do the same thing and repeat. And the first 3 months would be everyone busy sourcing for the upcoming sale. That would involve responding to the general public, sending inquiries into the organization. That could be collectors that we've known for a long time, and that could also be random emails, letter communications telling us that someone's owned an object and they would like to be looked at and valued at. And then towards the 3rd and 4th months, so usually like March, April, then we started preparing the catalog, and then that would sort of take a month. So March, April cataloging and sort of putting together the catalog, actually lining up the sale, I would say curating the sale, and then we started also curating the actual exhibition, which takes place at the convention center. We have an overall venue designer who basically, when you come into our auction, you see that sort of every category would have a designated space, and then there is a sale room, and all that. We have a general sort of architect person who does the professional drawing. But within the category itself, we basically can decide how our walls work and what do we want to put where. So those would all come from the specialists themselves. So as a department, we handle over 1,000 objects a year across a very wide time period. So basically everything from the Song Dynasty all the way to contemporary, where Henrietta and I overlap most. So we have sort of responsive sourcing, where we are responding to clients' requests who wishes to buy things. And then there are proactive sourcing, where there are things that we know where they are and we really wanted to include them in a sale. And then we have the sort of more regular contributors, such as we have dealers, we have galleries, and these are the more sort of long-term partners that also would occasionally offer items in a sale. So we'll try to determine whether things are valued in the right way. And then we also look at whether particular things are good to sell at a particular time. So sometimes we know that there are really amazing things, but maybe it's not, maybe at this particular time it's not the best time, then maybe we will think about, oh, what about next year? So we also do a lot of that thinking. And then there's also the matter of location, which sales site is more suitable. Is Hong Kong the best place to sell peas, or is New York better? And then when that happens, then we need to work very regularly with our colleagues in London and New York also to have that discussion.
Having done all that, then you would have to curate in
Yes.
a way that there is a kind of rhythm.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So it means that we can't just put everything in like sort of random sequence in a cell. A large cell in our company would last for possibly 10 hours. That would be the longest cell that I've done. But in a general 5 to 6 hour cell, we need to consider times when there are some clients who would come and go. And we also need to maintain a very exciting momentum during the cell, meaning that I have to have some very important things in between different collections, or we sort of need almost like a room divider or a section divider, where people realize that, oh, these things are relevant, and that would determine the sort of the rhythm of the cell. We want to make sure that when people come into the exhibition, when do they want to see the most expensive piece in the cell? Or if the paintings are very large, where do we put them? And then when paintings are very small, do we cluster them closer to each other so that it's easier for people to see and pay attention? But the intention is always to encourage people to linger longer, right? Like to enjoy the exhibition, to have a great experience.
What you have described, of course we wouldn't know, but at the same time, because as a gallerist, we also have to always curate
Yes.
shows in the gallery or in the outside art space, and maybe we feel like, oh, it's very challenging, interesting, and sometimes we have we'll invite like external curators to help us, especially like major art fairs like Art Basel. We are given a booth at a space, and we will have to try to maximize the flow,
Yes.
a traffic flow of people, and especially in the place where there are hundreds of galleries competing with us. But then the considerations are very different, because I would not have to, plan the layout of my book
Yes.
together with the layout of the flow of the exhibition. And again, you also have to think about the time.
Yeah. But we have to make sure that each piece has their own deserved space and their own deserved sort of atmosphere, so that, because it's actually a very competitive landscape. If you look at a cell with 500 paintings, for example, how do we let one particular painting stand out, and how do people sort of pay attention to that? And sometimes it really helps to put maybe things that are more similar together. I'd say choice is about 50-50. So I love bringing in new artists, because it's always great to see new talents, and it always gives people a fresh breath of air. When we're talking about the top artists, they are necessary. There is that constant want to expand the market, and I think the biggest space to expand the market would be the top layer, basically. And then we have the sort of core level, that the names that people are very familiar with, and then we're very confident with the price, sort of mid-range. And then I think everything that's with the emerging artists, it's really interesting, because we see how the market responds to them. We see when people walk into the hall, do they like it? What do they talk about it when they see a piece of work? Are they curious about the artist, what they've done? So all these things are really, really sort of a big satisfaction of my part of the job.
And the other million-dollar question would be, how do you guys do valuation? There is kind of like an official point of view that often you guys would value the art rather low in range.
Mm-hmm. When doing valuation, we look at 4 to 5 elements. We have quality, which is the most important probably, and then we have provenance, where it comes from, whether someone famous had owned it before, whether it's been always in a collection, it's never seen in the market. And then we have rarities. So for a particular type of painting, how many are out there? Is there 2,000 out there, or it's just 2? So that also affects it. And then we have condition, which probably affects contemporary works a little less. And then how good the condition is. Is it moldy? Does it need a lot of restoration? I think for contemporary work, we also consider how easy it is to display it, so that's also a consideration. And then last, but one of the most important is who the artist is and how the market is for that particular artist. Are we looking at, is he already at the top level? Is he the sort of bestseller? Is he emerging, or is he entirely new? So that will sort of determine, I think, the price range. And then the rest is just, it's like a meter where they can have like higher and lower, and then the estimate will be a summary of that. So even if it's not scientific, the interesting thing is when a team, so for example, when my team look at this one work, oftentimes the estimates won't be that far off. So maybe we would have, when we estimate a $1 million work, for example, probably the difference between the whole team would be about 100 to 200,000. So 10-20% is not that huge difference. So it's not entirely mathematical, but it's predictable.
Does the seller have any say in this?
Yes, always. They have to agree.
They can agree or disagree. They say, I don't want
so they have to agree in order for us to get business. So in a way, it's also a mutual understanding. I think what we do in the first line is we would propose something that we think most suitable. And then of course, clients' expectations are always different, and so are their circumstances. And depending on their circumstances and our proposal, we sometimes would reach a midway. Sometimes the midway is closer to us, and sometimes the midway is closer to them. And it also depends on the demand in the market. If it's something that we know for a fact that the market, there is a huge demand, then maybe we will likely meet more in their way too. Another thing that I haven't mentioned before is to look at their market track record, which is a very important indicator also. How can we sort of break through that existing wall of Chinese paintings and look into the future? And that's the birth of Chinese contemporary ink as a separate category. And we also didn't want to do auction right away, so we did a series of private selling exhibition, which proved to be really successful in 2013 and 14, bringing in many artists, working directly with them and sort of showcasing their creativity, but also allowing me to get to know people like you and the trade and a group of galleries that sort of really focus on promoting the ink. When I sort of did that exhibition part full time, it was a great way to engage with clients, because in a way the time is a bit slower, the time frame is a bit slower.
Right.
In auction everything is sold in like 5 seconds, but for exhibition it allows, like your business I guess, it allows time for people to consider and to come back to you and ask more questions, and from that interaction actually I got to know a lot of the clients very closely, because we had meaningful conversations about a particular work or an artist.
What kind of bridges we need to build in order that like people in the rest of the world can eventually appreciate ink the same way that like I guess the Asian do.
One of the big things that I think would need to change is the gallery system in mainland China. I think when that becomes a major force where artists can promote themselves to the wider audience, once that is mature, then the rest would come much faster and much easier. I think we definitely need more in China, because Hong Kong galleries only have very limited presence in China.
Right.
And also it's a huge country, meaning that there are so many talented artists that needs to be explored and properly promoted and also advised. I think how does their work evolve? What career trajectory do they want? Or do people want to see? So all these, I think they need almost like a more professional advisory, I think,
right,
for that market to grow. Education is key, I think. Remember 2012-13 when there was, or 2011-12 when there was a series of exhibitions done at the British Museum, and then they had it at Musée Guimet in Paris,
right,
and then they had the Boston Museum of Fine Arts show,
sure,
and then they have the show at the Met, and there's like boom, 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 and it's like a series of things happening
publications
within
coming
2
out.
years.
Yeah.
And I think at the time people were really excited about it. So I think we really need more of that to sustain the attention and the interest.